Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation. Actually, no, it's the Freight Coach podcast. I got back into my old thing here. That's who we are. That's what we're doing now, but we are still the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 in Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Carla Isted, good morning to you. Corey Buchan, TGIF, all going on out here on this beautiful Friday. And you guys, I got a very special guest for you guys that we're going to bring up here in about 30 seconds. He's been on the show a bunch of times. We're just going to talk about insurance again, you guys. We're going to talk about what people can expect out there, renewals, all of that fun stuff so people can get prepared as we're creeping up on the end of the year here already. So with that being said, I got my man Cam back on the show with Valley Trucking. Cam, what's going on, brother?
What up, dude? How are you?
Dude, I'm doing well, man. I'm just, I'm in my routine, and that's where I love, I try every single day to legitimately just do the same thing day in and day out, because I've just found that works for me. It works for my personality, but most importantly, it works for my business. And that's where a lot of my focus and energy is right now, is putting in that time to grow and scale things, because, this because you bootstrap. I got a finite amount of time to make this work. You know what I mean? And I can't look back on anything and be like, I didn't give it my all. So it's really about building, following my system and just doing the work every single day.
Yeah, man. I'm proud of you too. I've watched you kind of grow through the years, and obviously we've been friends for a while now, man. So
yeah,
I'm in your corner and I'm rooting, dude. You're just, you're killing it. You're hammering, and consistency and discipline obviously is the key in any environment, in any probably area of your life, right? For working out, your family, your kids, your business, whatever. So that's what it takes.
Yeah, dude. And it's the truth, man. And I think it's like with everything, you need to, you always have to look inward, and especially in your business, right? If your business isn't performing, it's not the market, it's you, like ultimately that's what it boils down to. Cause there's always going to be challenges is what I mean by that. And I'm not sitting here saying that like, you know, the market doesn't have an effect on your business because it does ultimately, right? Like the opportunities that are out there, but you can't look at some of these obstacles and be like, all right, I got to stop, because it's tough out there. It's always going to be tough, right? And I mean, you see this too, especially because, with a lot of your clients, because you insure trucking companies, fleets, owner ops, you work with drivers of all size. You've undoubtedly seen some guys go from 1 to 5 to 10 to 20 trucks, right?
Yep. But I've also seen it go the other way too, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see people that maybe didn't have a solid business plan, but they had connections and they knew what they're doing a little bit. And so then they scale up really quick and, it's going well. But then all of a sudden there's no controls in place for training and hiring and quality controls, process procedures. And next thing you know, they're getting violation after violation, accident after accident. And then they go from 25 trucks to 1 truck because he's like, yeah, not doing that again. So, but I mean, our whole focus every single time is, to align with the goals and like, hey, what is the company, whether it's a freight broker, whether it's a trucking company, what do they want to achieve and what do they want to do? And then our goal is to just make suggestions, guide them, give them the best resources and input, make connections, right? Like I've hit you up a number of times and like I'm connected in the industry. So for me, it's like, how can I help, right? I don't want to be a cash register for somebody just to pay insurance to, because nobody likes paying insurance. Let's be real. And insurance seemingly keeps going up, right? And there's reasons for a lot of this, but from let's say a new trucker, for example, they come in, they want to, they're entrepreneur, they want to get in the truck, they want to go. I don't think they realize how expensive it is. And like insurance is just one component, right? You got licensing, you got setup, you got compliance, then all of a sudden the drug testing, then all of a sudden it's like, shoot, I got to buy tires, I got to get gas or diesel. And it's like all this stuff starts ticking. Nuts and bolts haven't gone down in cost. Nothing has gone down in cost, right?
Yeah.
Except for sometimes the freight, the cost per mile, depending on if they're not savvy enough to figure out, hey, how do I navigate this landscape? Or if they're not maybe savvy enough to realize like, shoot, I actually have to do some sales, try to find some customers. Let's figure out how we can do this or connect with a good broker that is solid. But then you got that 6-month period where shit right now, one of the big, and actually this is something that I did want to bring up and just touch on but one of the big things going on, which is nothing new, you've seen it, everyone's seeing it, there's articles about it, is like impersonation theft, right? Yeah. So like we're getting calls seemingly very real, seemingly like they know a lot about the client, our customer, our trucking customer. They just need to make a quick change. And it's like, hey, I just need to update my contact info. Like I got a new email. And it's like very close. It'd be like, the freight coach, but like maybe the coach had a 0 instead of an O or a 1 at the end, something like that. Yep. Where also it's like, oh, okay. And then you'll get an email sometime later, who knows when, trying to verify a load. Hey, I need a certificate, need this. Like we got them coming to get this load. Just want to verify. Cool. Gets verified because they issue the cert. Insurance is active. Everything's all good to go. Well, come to find out, a broker just released a load to a company that's not insured, not even affiliated. It is not the actual company on the MC number, right? It's a big fraud and scam. And the next thing you know, you're out $280,000 because they took a load of whatever. And you're coming, calling us and like our insured's like, never got a load, never issued the load. Broker's like, shit, we did our due diligence. We thought, but apparently not because they didn't verify the truck. There's a bunch of things they could have done potentially, maybe not. And then all of a sudden there's $280,000 gone from multiple parties, including the customer, right? So that's a common thing right now. It's a problem.
So I'm glad I'm actually really glad you brought that up, man. Cause I want to know how, cause like I'm starting to see this a lot on, kind of the social media world where a lot of the drivers are out there saying like, hey, brokers, you guys are asking for way too much. Like what is it? When is enough? Or what can a broker actually request from an insurance perspective? Like for me to go to you. So say I'm trying to get a certificate for one of your clients, Cam, how much can I actually ask? And like, what's actually available to me?
Yeah. And that's kind of the hard part because there's a couple, obviously like our job's to protect client info. Like, I'm not just gonna like all of a sudden just
Yeah.
volunteer a bunch of info. I don't know you. You don't know me. I mean, you're my friend. So if you called me, I could, be like, I can get you in the right place. But
Yeah.
like,
No.
if someone's just calling me off the street or a broker just calling our office, like, we're going to provide what is needed or required per the contract or per, hey, here's what's coming up. Now, sometimes people have been asking, hey, and this is, I guess, it's a pain in the ass, but it might be an effective way. Is this VIN number and this driver covered on your policy? So you'll get a copy of the license, because everyone has a license, right? And you got the VIN number on the truck. So whoever you're working with to just verify, hey, I need you to verify the VIN number in the truck. And it's going to hold it up a touch in the process. But when they call us, we can then say, we can either verify it or not. Or what we'll do, if it's a small account, you can say, hey, I just need a list of equipment. We're going to be working with this client. I just want to verify what equipment is on the policy, and we'll attach that and say, hey, you could look at the VIN numbers. And if that VIN number is on there, you'll be good. Now, big accounts, I've got a lot of accounts where the VIN numbers aren't going to be scheduled if it's a big fleet or something like that, because they go off the reporting. So like, they're covered. It's a little bit different. But if you're dealing with a fleet, it's a little bit more sophisticated. Like, they probably got some things in place. I mean, everyone has a camera now. Sometimes you can ask the carrier, hey, send me a picture of the driver, right? And you can kind of look at those and say, hey, is the driver match up? Like, I think that's going to come a little bit more relevant, is some sort of ID verifications where it's like picture to picture. Does it match up? Does it look good? Now, I think there has to be a way. It's like whack-a-mole. There'll be a way for them to kind of get ahead of this. But I know it's right now, everyone's susceptible. And the shitty part is, there's probably not coverage unless you have a crime policy or something like that from the broker side. The trucker, like, I mean, they really weren't involved in it. Someone used their info, so they're not really at fault, right? There's no liability back to them. So most of the contingent, I mean, I guess I can't say all, I don't know, but most of the broker cargo policies are probably going to exclude that because it's a crime, right? There's an exclusion clause in there that would probably drop down in that event, where if you have a crime policy, which most don't, most brokers don't even have insurance, if we're being real, but
Sure.
They're not going to be covered. They're going to deal with that out of pocket. So then you got to work with the customer to try to figure out a solution. And hey, can we get, how can we settle this up so I don't have to pay $280,000? Another thing, I said $280,000. How much is most cargo policies covered? 100K, right? 100K since, fuck, I don't even know when. Way back when. Like, who knows when? Before me.
Yeah, the 14 years that I've been in this industry, it's been 100K.
Yeah, I know, for way back. So that's the thing, is like, man, when's the last time you went to the store and anything's gone down in cost? Like, grocery store, even, like, think of that. People don't even think of it. It's like reefer loads, right? Your flatbed, and I don't know what all you do nowadays, but I mean, those things aren't cheap. Right. And so I think the valuation, so this is speaking to brokers and truckers, I guess, if I were to say that. So for our clients, we have a lot of conversation around, what are you actually hauling? Like, the actual value. I don't give a shit what that contract says. What are you hauling?
Yeah.
Because, like, it's not much more for me to take you up to 250, it's a few $100 a month. Like, and a lot of people don't like that. Like, my job is just to make sure they're covered, because in the event of a claim and you have to use your insurance, you're never going to be like, man, I'm so glad I got the cheapest insurance. I'm so glad that, I went online and clicked a couple buttons and I got a certificate. It's great. That never is the case. And now a cargo claim may be somewhat simple, but you get in a big claim accident with, some four-wheelers involved and something like that, dude. It's terrible. And there's venues, Vegas, Texas, California, Florida, and such. There's a bunch of others. Like, man, you get in an accident in any of those venues, good luck. You know what I mean? Those attorneys are going to tear you up, even if you're not at fault, dude. There's ways that attorneys can actually still drag you into a claim, still get you involved, and still, like, bleed you dry as, like, a company, because you're going to have to pay them to get out of it, because they're just going to drag you into court, right? So these are a lot of things we try to educate our clients on, how to handle claims, how to educate your drivers and your staff on intaking a claim, what to do at the scene of an accident, all that kind of stuff, just because it's all very relevant. And it starts way before that. It starts at the handbook, the process, procedures, the hiring, who you hire, how did you bring them in, what kind of testing did you do to ensure that they got the experience, did you notate this, do you have regular meetings, safety meetings, educational things? If they didn't sign off on it, never happened. Like, there's so many things way ahead of time that we try to educate our trucking companies on that will come up and will make a big difference that time you get drug into court, because these attorneys and predatory attorneys are just looking at companies that aren't up to standards. Maybe they're barely operating at FMCSA standards. Like, but if they have violations, tickets, accidents, like anything that's out of place. And I can tell you, I look at a lot of files, man, and not very many are in order. And if I can look at those, like an attorney will find anything they need. And it's like, you're going to get strung up. So,
and that's the dude. And that's the thing that from my perspective, like I think is one of the most big, like one of the biggest threats out there in, you know, outside of financial literacy in business, like that's got to be up there, man. And like the top 2-3 reasons why people go under and lose everything, right? Because like you look at, and again, I'm not sitting here telling people to be reckless with their spending or anything like that, but you know, like Cam just brought up a really good point. When's the last time you actually looked at your policy to find out what it actually covers? Do you have all of this in mind? Is this all organized too? Because I think that that's a big thing too in the heat of the moment when something happens, because it's never a matter of if in the real world, it's when something happens. Do you have your stuff in order? Because, you know, again, you don't want to lose your life's work because you wanted to, you know, maybe save a little bit here, or you didn't have time to organize this stuff.
Yeah, and it might not even be that they're intentionally wanting to save. They might not know better, right? Their friends or their the truck stop chatter, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got this deal and I got this. Man, I'm only paying this much, and like I can send you, and you and I have talked about this. I can send you 2 quotes or certificates or something that look exactly the same, and you're going to think, man, that's a great deal. But when you lift the hood up, they are not the same thing. Like you're sacrificing a lot. There's a reason that you're calling and getting different quotes from the same carrier. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a reason that they're different prices. And I promise you, it has nothing to do with getting a better deal. Yeah. Guaranteed. So there's a lot of things to that, man. It's working with a professional, working with someone you trust. Biggest piece of advice I always give is like, I can always find a cheaper policy for somebody anywhere. You know, I could always figure out ways to make it less expensive and cut corners and, you know, cut coverages to try to earn your business. Like we don't take that approach. I don't do that. At the end of the day, it's like, who do you like? Who do you trust? Who do you feel comfortable with and confident to have in your corner to like for the long haul, right? Like I'm trying to build a relationship. I work on relationships. So I'm not trying just to ride a trucker just to earn their piece of business and have them go out of business on me or have them leave me next year. It doesn't really work like that. But, and I mean, the market's tough right now. Like, let's be real, right? Like, so one of the areas people think they can kind of go back at or, you know, maybe negotiate against because it's a big line item on their P&L is insurance, you know? And so maybe they haven't had a claim, or maybe they're like, you know what, I don't really care if I'm covered for that. I want to self-insure or whatever. Or if they don't have the money, I promise if you can't afford the coverage, you can't afford the claim. Like if you can't afford just to pay that extra few $1,000, zero chance you can afford the claim when it comes. So like that's going to put you out of business off that little decision because whatever reasoning you're deciding. But once again, it's probably education or lack of education, because you got insurance agents that are just out there to try to sell it to make some commission and stuff. And they may be not even the most educated. Like we've got every one of my staff goes through training and higher level education and get designations. And like, dude, they understand trucking more than a lot of trucking companies, if I'm being honest, you know what I mean? So, and rates aren't coming down. Like, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like, I mean, it's kind of stating the obvious. Like anyone who's been in this industry, it goes up. It goes up. Now, the goal is to get with an insurance company that's stable, that doesn't slingshot around, that doesn't have massive losses. Maybe one that only does trucking and doesn't do everything else in the world, so that you have specialists and like professionals. You use the term professional, like they're experts, man. That's what they do every single day. Every person in the company does that. And that's how we kind of built our model. Right. And we work with a bunch of different insurance companies. We're I guess you can call it an independent agent is really what it is. So like my clients are my clients. I work for them. I don't work for the insurance companies. I do what's best for them. I help figure out what solutions they get. Sometimes it's not even the best insurance, but they want to do some things that I can't put them where I need to until we get to a point. So my job is to guide them, give them a roadmap, say, here's how we get there. Let's go make money.
How how are you assessing, like, is this the time of year when most policies are up for renewal, or, with it coming up here, say it's, December, for example, are you reaching out to people like, hey, we're like 90 days away from renewal. We should start looking at your policies. And, again, because I think, like, I also think of it from a coverage perspective, like, how much additional freight is opened up to you if you increase your cargo to $250,000? What do those rates look like? And then on top of that, too, if you're an open deck guy, how much more money would you gross if you maybe started doing simple over-dimensional loads, right? Like, I'm talking simple permits, 10 feet wide, nothing extravagant or anything into the super load category, but how much more revenue could you be grossing by doing that? So, those are those questions that I would want. Like, if I owned a flatbed company, and say I owned, 5 trucks, 5 flatbeds or 10 flatbeds or something like that, and I was only doing 100,000 in cargo, I would want to look into that. I really would. I would want to have that conversation and see, like, hey man, what can that actually do? Because, like, as a broker, I move over dimensional freight. I know how much more it pays to move over dimensional freight, even simple over dimensional freight, as opposed to a standard legal flatbed load. It's night and day sometimes, man.
Well, and to kind of touch on that, I mean, depending on the size and the sophistication of the account and the needs, right? Like, if you're just a owner op, if you need help, you'll reach out and, like, we'll stay in touch. If you're a bigger account or fleet and you need resources, DOT compliance, and you need us to come in and do stuff and planning and safety and stuff, we're working with you a lot more, right? And so usually it's an ongoing conversation in their office, a little bit more, maybe quarterly, maybe Zooms, depending, because I've got clients all across the country. It just kind of depends on the scenario. We'll fly out if need be. And then we'll start typically that process, I don't know, 120 days, 90, like, at least out. But, like, we know what they're doing, right? We're in good communication. We're good. We're planning strategies. We're looking at opportunities. We're looking at the market. We're trying to provide feedback. The other thing too is, like, flatbed's a huge one, right? And, like, there's a couple different big brokers that they'll look at the insurance company name, right? And they'll say, hey, we know this insurance company. We've worked with them. They're great to work with. This carrier has 250K cargo. They've got these limits. They've got all these great coverages, and they're with this insurance company. Like, okay, they'll get a preferred look over a lot of carriers that just went with the run of the mill insurance, the cheapest they found, that maybe don't handle claims. Because here's what ends up happening. Uncovered loads, right, for steel and things like that, they get wet and stuff like that. Well, a lot of insurance policies aren't going to cover that. Unattended freight that gets stolen, a lot of policies aren't going to cover that. Like, there's so many different things that people look at and they're like, well, I got 250K cargo, I'm good. Okay, well, how many people have actually read their insurance policy front to back and then understood, okay, it says I'm covered here, but if you keep going, there's going to be an exclusion somewhere that says, but if this happened, you're not covered. Reefer is a big one, right? Like, everyone thinks of reefer breakdown. If it breaks down, I'm covered. But what happens if you just get a load rejected due to wrong temp because of whatever reason? The driver messed up, who knows?
Errors and omissions.
Kind of, but, like, a lot of policies don't cover that. Well, my good clients and the ones that we can get that actually listen and look, it's not always cheaper. That's the thing. But they'll get the coverages they need for what they do. And at the end of the day, is it actually not cheaper?
Yeah.
No, it's just they're paying a little bit more in insurance cost to ensure that they're actually covered, and they don't want to actually come out of pocket $80,000 for some blueberries or whatever the case. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's a worthy conversation. And I mean, look, if your agent's not at least giving you options or talking about that stuff, you need to find somebody else that does. Or maybe they don't know, maybe they're not an expert. Maybe you just went with the person that does your home and auto insurance, which is fine because they can write it because they have a carrier. But that's okay. Like, that's fine. You maybe outgrew those needs though, and find someone that can help you. Right.
Let's talk about freight theft there for a second, because that is, like, up hundreds of percent over the last couple of years here. So you're telling me that there are certain, and obviously I want to preface this, guys, by saying that this isn't, like, advice from a legal advice.
I'm not an attorney. Don't take my advice.
Don't take my advice either. But for conversation piece, what you're saying here is, if I'm hauling a load of steel for, and it's cargo value $200,000, I got 250 in coverage, but it gets stolen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility that that is not covered under my insurance
Potentially,
policy.
yeah. So they call it like unattended theft, right? And meaning like, hey, you went into the truck stop, you showered, you spent some time in there, you're not attending your vehicle, or maybe you parked because you went to a nephew's birthday. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons people
Yeah.
leave their truck
But
and
this,
it
but
gets
this
stolen. That
yeah.
potentially could be, depending on the policy. Once again, this is all hypothetical stuff, but depending on how their contract is written with that insurance policy and who they're with and the coverages they got, yeah, they might not be covered, right? So there, and there's a lot of things that there's so many. Once again, it comes back to communication on what you're hauling. Be very specific. Like the most common answer I get, oh, I'm hauling general freight. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, what are you hauling? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna assume you're hauling some crazy shit. Like if you tell me general freight, but like, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Truckers want to get they have to get insurance, right? They're required by law.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part about freight brokers. They're not required. Although, however, I think they should have insurance. And the whole bond thing's another topic too. Like we can do this for days, but
yeah, Cam, as a broker, I fully agree with you. Every freight broker should have cargo insurance.
Well, you're a business owner. What kind of business owner doesn't protect the asset? I mean, and it's like if you can't afford the 5, 10, 15, 20 grand, whatever it ends up being for your situation, hustle more, go sell some more freight. Like, what are we doing? But anyways,
no, I'm right there with you, man. But I think like these are, these are what conversations you should be having with your insurance agent right now, because like this is the first. Honestly, man, call it ignorance. I don't have it all figured out. This is the first I've ever heard that if your load gets stolen, that your insurance might not cover it, because it could, again, hypothetical situation. If you don't have, it was unattended load coverage.
Yeah, unattended theft. And once again, like, I'm not saying that to scare everybody. All of a sudden, everyone's like, we're not covered. And it's like, just go ask the right questions based on what you're hauling, right? Like, go look at what you're hauling is awesome. What does that say? Any insight on sharing cargo, transport 100, 300 freight into Mexico? Depends how far into Mexico. Depends if we got staging. Depends on who's hauling it into Mexico and like what areas. That becomes a little bit tough, though. I've had that a few times with some clients that have done it. We've been successful a few times, but then I've also been unsuccessful getting it covered a few times. So a lot of times you're better off finding a company out of Mexico to transfer it to that can somehow work in a contract. But I'm not saying that's the route to go there. We just got to look at the whole thing for that question.
Michael,
that's a good question though.
Yeah. If you've never seen Sinaloa, of all places, Sinaloa. If you've never moved freight into Mexico before, Michael, I'm not sure if you have or not. But I would highly recommend, and I don't even know if you're a trucking company or if you're a broker, Michael, but try and establish contact with a U.S. say you're a broker, a U.S. based carrier that has contacts with somebody in Mexico that will transload in, say, Laredo or the nearest port of entry to where your freight's going, and has a Mexican carrier relationship out there. I've done like 500-600 loads out of Mexico into the U.S., and that's what we did is we had a relationships with 3 U.S. based carriers who had carrier relationships in Mexico. And they had all of that where we went down to the plant in Mexico to grab all the freight, bring it up, transfer carrier at the border, cross dock, and load it onto the U.S. truck in Laredo, and then bring it stateside. So just, I don't know what your experience with it is, man, but said you're a broker, but that's what I would do, man. I would find a U.S.
It's just tough. I mean, there's no repercussion. Like, we can't do anything, right? That load goes down there and they don't come back.
Correct.
I mean, it's like it's a high risk. It's a high risk play. Canada, typically not a big deal, but once again, there's so many factors that go into it. I think people just think like insurance is something I buy. It's a commodity. I just need to shop for it, find the best deal, which you do. I'm saying you're a business owner, be savvy, obviously. But they all think it's the same. They think every insurance company is the same. They think all the claims are the same. They think all this stuff, and it's like, couldn't be further from the truth. It really couldn't. Yeah. So sometimes I might recommend a couple things, and it's like one of them is clearly going to cost you a little bit more money, but we're going to talk about the reasons. And then it's up to you to say, you know what, I don't care about those reasons. I'm going to do this. And when we have a claim, you're going to get pissed. And then you'll be like, all right, can we do that? And I'll be like, well, no, not now. You got a claim. So now we're stuck.
That's exactly it.
No,
And that's what I mean, like with insurance, right? Like you need to be talking to your agents about all of these coverages, what they actually mean, what they actually entail. And I would start at worst case scenario and work your way forward. Worst case scenario, what happens? That your whole unit gets stolen, you know, but then they find the truck and trailer, but the cargo is missing. Are you covered? And I would just fucking work my way up from there. I would want to know literally anything and everything about that because, you know, again, you guys, like I talk about this often, and I've said this a lot over my career. Take 5 minutes on the front end to save you 5 hours on the back end, you know, because it's all perfect world scenario. Everything that Cam and I are talking about right now, neither one of us, knock on wood, are going through a situation where a truckload of high value cargo was stolen and now we might not have coverage for that, right? So it's a lot easier to think about these things and plan these things and build a system around these things when the sun is out. All right. Because the last thing you want to find yourself in is when something happens and you don't fucking know what to do. All right. Because that's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. It might cost you your business. All right. I'm not here to fearmonger, but I live in the real world, you guys. All right. There's no sunshine, like Rainbow Land, like Cam Brady says. I don't live in Rainbow Land. Okay. I live in the real world and shit happens here. And you need to have a plan for that. And as a business owner, as a leader of your organization, you need to have these conversations. You need to know what to do in these instances because trust me, you guys, insurance, lawyers, you might pay them a lot of money. They're not your fucking friend. All right. They will protect their themselves in these instances. Okay. They will. So you got to be prepared.
Yep. 100%, man. And look, you don't have to know all the questions, but I can tell you if you're just like, you call somebody and they're like, hey, I need your truck, you know, give me your truck info, your driver's info, and what are you hauling in your radius? And that's all you get to get a quote. Like, how much confidence do you have come claim time? They know what it is you do, right? Yeah. So like, if you're not getting asked, you feel the right questions, maybe should be an indicator for you to be like, you know what? I should probably call somebody else just to see. Cause like, I get that all the time. Clients call me and we start talking about coverages, or I'll have a client try to leave me and like, we'll start reviewing some stuff and the quote's different, right? Significantly less, 40, 50K less sometimes. And then we start going through it. I'm like, you don't even have this, this, and this. In fact, you can't satisfy the 5 contracts that we've got you in right now and all this other stuff. Oh, I didn't know I needed that. Well, that agent never asked me that. I didn't tell him I needed that. And I'm like, that should be your first indicator. You need to tell them what you need. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. They should be asking you the questions about what you need as a professional to figure out your exposures to make sure you're covered. Like that's how it should work in a good scenario. So,
dude, I agree, man. Well, hey, Cam, I appreciate your time as always, brother. How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
I think they just call your cell phone typically and then get a hold of me if I recall. But I mean, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Cameron Pechia, P-E-C-H-I-A, valleytruckinginsurance.com, or Cameron, C-A-M-E-R-O-N, at valleytruckinginsurance.com. And then I don't know, you can always reach out to obviously Freight Coach and he'll make a connection. So he's good about that. So
always. All right, man. I appreciate you joining me. That's going to be it for today, you guys. We got guests coming on again next week as well. And as always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.